Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another Tuesday discussion. Here on Tuesdays, we do talk about questions and comments we are getting on YouTube, Instagram. Oh, and from our wonderful Patreon community. Love y'all. Now, with today's comment, man, it was interesting. Occasionally, we do reviews on rum because Durrell introduced us to rum a handful of years ago, and rum's good. Rum's real good. I'm going to talk about what I like about rum, why I focus on the rum brands that I focus on, all those type of things. Ultimately, the comment that I got was like, hey, as a whiskey drinker, I'm interested in rum. Where the heck do I start? So I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions on that. I am obsessed with one particular brand. That doesn't mean there aren't other brands out there that probably hit at such a high level, but I'm not a rum expert. I'm a whiskey drinker who likes rum. This is where I'm concentrating, and this is why I like it. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. As we go through this, I am going to open up this grenade. I haven't gotten into this in quite a while here, but man, let's pour some out here. I'm going to do this in a live wire whiskey glass. So cheers to Mike Stahl over there. Cheers, buddy. But this one here, this is one that I split with Durrell, dropped on Seelbach. Lost Cask is the brand here. They dropped a 23-year-old rum from Barbados. When I see Barbados, I immediately say Foursquare. We'll get into that in just a moment. And it was $200, which is pricey. So that's why I split it with Durrell. And then I got this kind of cool sample bottle. I actually didn't know if they came in that size. But I haven't had that in quite a bit. I'm going to sip that while we talk here. Excited to get back into that. But for me personally, the brand that excites me the most when it comes to any rum, not to say that other brands haven't hit. Grandeur is one of the ones that comes to mind, but I am very impartial to Barbados rum, which when I see Barbados, I immediately think in my mind Foursquare. So this is a Foursquare bottle. If you've not seen one before, they got the Foursquare up at the top. It's usually got some type of name on there. So I can pull up another one. You can see the Detente. But this is the style. It's got a whole lot of information on it. Also got the fiddly bit here and this bottle shape. So that is one clue that it's Foursquare. But a lot of people source Barbados rum. So I'm going to talk about two other brands, I guess. I already talked about Lost Cask. I'll talk about another one in just a moment. But with the Foursquare, the reason that I like it so much is because everything that I've read, everything I've learned, there's a purity to their rum. They don't add sugar. So unlike whiskey, we have all these definitions. We have all these strict laws. Rum is one of those things like tequila where they can do additives. Additives to me are a big no-no, especially when it comes to sugar. Being a pre-diabetic, I try to avoid sugar these days. That's one of the things that kind of got me into whiskey when I gave up beer, and whole long story. But when it comes to rum, then I want to avoid the additives. I want to avoid the added sugar. I was reading how Foursquare doesn't do that. Thus, immediately attracted to Foursquare. Now, where our Foursquare journey was actually with Durrell. Durrell is the one that got us into these Foursquares back in like 2020. And oh my gosh, we were so amazed. The reason I think it translates well to a bourbon drinker is that these are finished and aged typically in ex-bourbon casks. Sometimes they are finished in other casks as well, like Madeira, sherry, port. once again, there's almost like a commonality, a foundation, a translation that can come through where you get the notes that you're used to, and then you get the excitement of the notes that you're not used to. Speaking of which, I haven't taken a sip of this yet. Cheers, everybody. Mm, that's good. So, so with the Foursquare, the reason I do like these so much, once again, is that translation with the ex bourbon casks. The thing that I keep an eye out for is typically something that's aged between 14 to 17 years. So the one I'm drinking right now is aged 23 years. Those years came with the cost. With that said, I don't know if that cost was worth it. It's kind of similar to like a light whiskey or a Canadian whiskey, where because it was aged in an ex bourbon cask, it's not new wood, it's not aging at the same trajectory as you would think a 23-year wood with bourbon. So just kind of keep that in mind. To me, the sweet spot thus far has been between 14 years and 17 years. With that said, had some outlier experiences with 6 years, 9 years, 10 years too. So not entirely relying on those double digit ages. But what I think will translate well is the fact that it has been aged in those X casks. You will get some notes that are familiar to you. So I would recommend that part of it. If you are getting into some dark rums, aged in X bourbon casks is the way to go, especially if they're being transparent about that. Even gave rum to Perry from This Is My Bourbon podcast in a blind. You can find the live. That one's on his channel a couple of years ago. And he ended up putting a Foursquare rum as his favorite whiskey of the flight. And then I had to inform him that, well, his first one wasn't actually whiskey. But the reason that it translates so well, particularly in a blind flight, is A, aged in ex-bourbon cask gets those notes. But we're also so used to finished whiskeys, things finished in rum, versus the other way around. There's a translation there the more you get into those spirits. So what I would keep an eye out for are these Foursquare releases. Unfortunately for us, they are getting more and more expensive. So as I hold up these exceptional casks that Foursquare has released over the years, my favorite one, if you see it, just to put it out there, is the Redoubtable. So that is my favorite one, ex-bourbon and ex-Madeira cask, 14 years old. Now, this one was released in September 2020, but I know some are still floating out there. The latest exceptional cast was the Touchstone. Darrell did a review on that, so you can find that on the channel. Raved about it, but the Redoubtable, when I bought it, was 100 to 120. I think the Touchstone is now like 180. So like all the spirits, it's whiskey or it's rum, the things that are sought after, the things that are being talked about, they ultimately, the price goes up. Now, I saw the Touchstone over at Party Source in Northern Kentucky. Gosh, I think they wanted 180, 190 for it. I passed. So you heard me raving here for the last couple minutes, but when the price gets too high, I pass. So, an alternative to this, if you see this brand, I would recommend it. Once again, Barbados is the one that I do recommend the most. Rolling Fork is a good brand that's doing single barrel rums. The ones that I've gotten my hands on are between 9 and 10 years old. They're also doing interesting finishing in ex-bourbon cask too. So I've had one that was finished, for an example, in a Woodford double oak cask. The one I have in my hand was finished in Elijah Craig casks. So that can add some interesting elements. And once again, that translation to the palate, it gives it just that common language. So if you are looking to get into rum, those are three brands I would keep in mind. Foursquare, that is the overarching one. But you get the same thing that you get with whiskey, where people are sourcing Foursquare whiskey, putting on their own label. You can find some deals there. Lost Casks is one. Now with the Lost Casks, they're kind of like that orphan barrel. They can be more premium price point. But with the Rolling Fork, you'll get those more affordable and expect to pay about 80 to 100 for something that's 9 years, 10 years old. So those are my recommendations. if you're a bourbon drinker looking to get into rum, I'm going to rave about Foursquare. And hey, hopefully when this video comes out here, I actually might be in Barbados and doing a tour of Foursquare. If I do that, I'll do a little short. I'll give some pictures. Follow it on Instagram. So thank you for joining today, Whiskey Friends. Hopefully that answers the question and gives some direction into getting into rum. Once again, not a rum expert. I love Foursquare. And now you know all the reasons why. So if you have a question or comment related to this video or any of the videos, put them on the comment section. I'll try to get to them when we can. And until next time, I'll catch you on the next Tuesday discussion. Goodbye, everybody.